citizens of the United States. We are anonymous. The country has witnessed the multiple tragedies that have taken place throughout the past few days in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Beginning with the senseless shooting of Jacob Blake by Kenosha officers, and already at a boiling point with the killing of George Floyd, protesters took to the streets to demand comprehensive and systemic action. Despite what the sheriff would have you believe, instead of negotiation, protesters were met with retaliation by police and law enforcement.
Yesterday, however, things turned bloody. A shooter, identified as Kyle Rittenhouse, opened fire on demonstrators, resulting in the deaths of 2 protesters, including Anthony Huber. A father and a loving boyfriend, he wanted to do all he can to protect the people around him, and he sacrificed his life to do so. Rittenhouse, a proud Blue Lives Matter supporter, plastered his Facebook page with blue line flags, law enforcement insignias, and photos of him with semi-automatic rifles. Fueled by hate, his mission last night seemingly had one goal: to take out as many protesters as possible.
But that isn't all. The scandal gets deeper with the involvement of the Kenosha Police Department. Earlier in the night, Rittenhouse was seen communicating with police prior to the shooting, accepting bottles of water and getting positive reinforcement from officers. Later in the night, Rittenhouse gets into an altercation with several protesters for pointing his rifle directly towards their heads. Some give chase, demanding that he leave the area. Rittenhouse turned, aimed his rifle, and fired, fatally shooting a protester in the head. Other protesters saw the scene and attempted to disarm him. Witness accounts and video confirm that as soon as protesters closed in, less than a block away from a line of watchful officers, Rittenhouse tripped. Rather than disarming, the shooter turned his weapon on the protesters and fired multiple shots, fatally hitting 2. One in the chest, the other in the arm. The shooter calmly walked away after, continuing to aim and fire his rifle several times at protesters trying to render aid.
Later in the night, Rittenhouse was identified as the shooter by several Twitter accounts, helped by the shooter himself after he confirmed his identity during an interview with a right-wing media outlet. Police only arrested him hours after protesters exposed his identity, address, and supposed whereabouts. With the subsequent revelation of the shooter's identity, many protesters were targeted by Blue Lives Matter Trump supporters with death threats. We condemn these actions in the highest manner and will identify and out this filth from the internet.
It is important to note that right-wing media journalists like Elijah Schaffer, Andy Go, and others have attempted to co-opt protests by spreading misinformation and doctoring videos. The interview with the shooter was conducted by Schaffer, who attempted to frame him as part of the Black Lives Matter movement. This is a blatant, irresponsible lie. Rittenhouse was outed as a Blue Lives Matter supporter, a supremacist organization with the mission of opposing Black lives and the Black Lives Matter movement. Another so-called journalist, Ian Miles Chung, insinuated that a Molotov cocktail was thrown at the shooter. This is also false. Multiple eyewitnesses confirmed it was a bag. These failed excuses for journalism have been implicated in doxing protesters and sending their information to white supremacist groups.
We have been silent for too long. We cannot sit still while we observe police and armed supremacist militia blatantly coordinate attacks on protesters. This is where we draw our line. Kyle Rittenhouse was not a lone shooter. He was assisted and aided by officers inside the Kenosha Police Department, and for that, it has incurred the wrath of Anonymous. As you watch this, our agents have already taken down the Kenosha.org and KenoshaCounty.org websites. We will support the protesters both on the ground and through the internet for the indefinite future until we get justice for those that died, and we vow to not let another injustice like yesterday's attack happen again.
To the Kenosha Police Department, we fought against Los Zetas, we took on ISIS, and we defied the might of the United States government. You are no challenge. This is only the beginning. Justice for Jacob Blake. Justice for the martyrs. We shall avenge the deaths of our comrades. You have all incurred our fury. Operation Kenosha, engaged. We are anonymous.
We are Legion.
We do not forgive.
We do not forget.
Kenosha, you should have expected us.